right, so yesterday we looked at 2-4. We didn't get to finish. We only got to like the equations examples. So for a review on the steps, quiet please. So yesterday we showed you guys how to do the average rate of change, looking at the interval. Whatever was the first value, that's x1, and then the second value is your x2. So then step 1 is to calculate f of x1 and f of x2, but I don't know, I feel like maybe that was throwing you guys off, but the f of x1 is the same thing as y1, and f of x2 is the same thing as y2, because f of x equals y, that means the same thing. F of x is the same thing as y, okay? So if you want to, you guys can use this formula instead of the f of x's if it makes a little more sense to you guys. So like for example, the example from yesterday, instead of f of x1, you could have called that y1. Instead of f of x2, you could have said that was y2. And then in your formula, you could have done y2 minus y1. If it makes more sense to you to use y's, then go ahead and use y's. It's the exact same thing, okay? So just as a review, when you get to these problems, you look at the first number on the interval. That's your x1. Plug it into the function. Whatever you get, that would be like your y1 or f of x1. Yeah.
Those are posted on the classroom notes, right?
I haven't posted it yet, but I will post them today.
Okay.
And then our x2 is the second value. So then you plug it in to the function, and whatever you get, that's like your y2 or f of x2. And then you plug everything into the formula to get your final answer. And then don't forget, for your final answer, you have to write it like this. Tell me what the interval is in your answer. Round it to 3 decimal places. And that's as far as we got yesterday. But today we're going to look over the graphs and the tables. These are actually much easier than the equations because you have the values already given to you, okay? So the directions are the same. It's asking you to find the average rate of change for the function over the interval. And remember, the first number is your x1 and the second number is your x2. And then you're supposed to find the exact value or round it to 3 decimal places, okay? So looking at my interval, the first value that I have is my x1, and then the second value is our x2. So then when I look on the graph, I'm looking for those two x values, which they're given to you. But if you remember, a coordinate point has a x first, then the y. It's a x comma y. So you look at whatever number's in the first part of the coordinate. So like, for example, this is the first part, this is the first part. So then for the x1, we're looking for 1. So that means that this right here is 1. So the one next to it would be your f of x1, or you can call it y1. The second one is that 1.414, that's your x2. That means the one next to it is like your y2. So then for here, you can just plug it into the formula, y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. The same thing as we did yesterday, except again, yesterday I had you guys use f of x1 and f of x2. If you want to use those instead of y's, you can use those. It's the same thing though when you plug it in, okay? So what is our y2 value, or f of x2? 0. So I'm going to put 0 minus my y1 is a negative 1.5. So because it's a negative, I'm going to put parentheses. So I'm subtracting a negative over my x2 value is 1.414 minus my x1 is 1. So we're going to just add those together. And remember, anytime you're subtracting a negative, that's like a negative times a negative, it becomes a positive. This right here becomes a positive. Or you can think of it as keep, change, change. So keep the 0, change the negative to positive, change the negative to positive. So 0 plus 1.5 is just going to be 1.5 over 1.414 minus 1 is going to give you what? 0.414. And then you're just going to plug that into the calculator. What do you get in the calculator there? So take the numerator divided by the denominator. 1.5 divided by 0.414. You guys all have a calculator. Go put that into the calculator. And you get like a pretty long decimal. 3.623188. Okay. So the directions here to tell you to round to 3 decimal places. That means after the decimal, you're looking at 3 more numbers. So I'm looking at the 3. You have to check the number next to it. If it's 5 or more, you add 1 more. 4 or less, you let it rest. So 1 is 4 or less, so we let it rest, yeah? So that's just going to be 3.623. We're going back to like elementary school right now, okay? So this is the average rate of change between 1, 1.414 is 3.623. Are you guys like offended because I said that? Yes. Because I said 4 or less, let it rest. It's whatever works to help you guys. That they have to do math. All right. So we got the 3.623 is your final answer rounded to the 3 decimal places. So again, on the graphs, you don't have to calculate anything. The values are given to you on the coordinate points, okay? So all you do is plug it into the formula. Versus the equations, you have to first find your y1 and your y2 by doing math and calculating them, okay? So let's look now at the table examples. When we have tables, it's kind of the same thing. The values are given to you. So the directions are the same. We are going to find the average rate of change over the interval, and we had to find exact values or round it to 3 decimal places. My interval, the same one. The first is still x1. The second is still x2. So my x1 is -2. X2 is 1. So if you look at the table right here, you have the x's given to you, and the f of x's are right next to it. So again, if you remember, f of x is the same thing as a y. So that's like your y next to it. So if we look at x1, that's -2. That tells me I got to look for -2 on my table, which -2 is the first one, okay? So that tells me -2 is right here. That means the one next to it is your y1, okay? This is x1. This is y1. There's the one right next to it. Then my x2 is 1, positive 1. So I'm looking on the table for positive 1. Positive 1 is the second to the last example, okay? That means this is x2 and y2. And you just plug it into the formula, okay? So y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So let's go plug it in. What is our y2 value? negative 2.6 minus y1 is negative 14.6. So because you're subtracting a negative, you got to put that second one in parentheses over what is x1? Sorry, x2. 1 minus x1 is negative 2. So put it in parentheses because you're subtracting a negative. And then you got to do keep, change, change. So keep this negative. Change this to positive. Change this to positive. Okay? So keep, change, change. And you do the same thing for the denominator. Keep this positive. Change this one. Change this one. Keep, change, change. So we're doing negative 2.6 plus 14.6. That should give you 12, I believe. Double check my math. Yeah? Okay. And then the denominator, 1 plus 2 gives us 3. And 12 divided by 3 is 4. So my final answer is 4. We're going to say the average rate of change between negative 2, 1 is equal to 4. So the ones on the tables and the graphs are pretty easy. All you do is look for the values. So x1 is negative 2. Look for it on the table. And then x2 is positive 1. You look for it on the table. The one next to it are your y's. Okay? Pretty straightforward. Yes? Hold on just a second. Okay, so for the rest of the period, you guys are working on the lesson 2-4 homework. Now you guys got to do all of them. If you did 1 through 4 yesterday, then you only got to do the 5 through 8, which that should be really quick. If you finish that, then go look at your missing assignments. Missing assignments. For this unit, we've done the 2-1, the 2-2, 2-3, day 2, and 2-3, day 3. If you finish today's 2-4, then go work on any of these assignments that you have missing. Missing assignments are due Wednesday because you guys have your test Wednesday. No, the one from yesterday is 2-4, but the one from the 2-3 day 2 day 3 I think is due today. No, this day 3 one is due today. All right, but your test is gonna be Wednesday, so you have all missing assignments needs to be done by Wednesday. Okay? Yep.